continue to walk next year. And thanks for all that you do as well. Can you hear? A little closer.
I'm not looking for a thing.
Oh, I guess I should introduce everybody. This is my daughter, Shanna. This is my sister, Cynthia, her Nux, Ian, my son, Xavier, also my grandson, my Nux, Mark Smoke, my sister, Trinity, and her son, Frisco, Bright. We also, there's my daughter's ashes. We've carried my daughter from Conestoga to this resting place here where we're going to let a little bit of ashes go here, but we're going to do the water cleanse at 4:30 with Chris. Nelson.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then we're going to release our ashes there. Also, all the rest of the family has a little bit of their ashes.
I haven't seen my phone on. Hey, you can't shut it off. I don't have it. Need to shut it off, Tom. Anyway, I'll tell you. I take my jacket off and show you the crest that I have on. This is just this guy's running for mayor, so that's the only reason that's there. My tribal name is Elgin Shah. I come from a tribe known as the Gitwagyats, and my crest is the raven. And I come from a village, if you look just to the north of us here, it's about 25 miles up the valley there, just from the other side. I was born, not raised there in Fort Simpson. And when I was 12 years old, I see they're restoring that CN station there, heritage site. I got on a train there when I was 12 years old, and I was on my way to Edmonton. I had no idea where Edmonton was. I didn't know where the hell I was going. All I knew was that I'm going to go to learn how to read or write. I didn't know how. I was 12 years old. Never attended the school. And when I got there, I didn't realize the ceremonies that took place yesterday really hit my wife and I's hearts really bad. And I don't look at all that is lost, and like I used to. I look at what we've regained, what we've retained. What you're doing here is really strong message. What you're all doing, you do it annually. You come here and walk, do what the old people used to do. You know, don't get stuck in grief, don't get stuck in sorrow, but celebrate life. After a while, start to let things go. Yesterday, it all came back for me and the reason. But you know, you got to grieve it and kind of put in the back of my mind not to forget. Our brains are structured so that there's a memory bank there, and sometimes the good memories come. You know, I've lost a lot of my friends. I went to the residential school as well. The last friend of mine that passed away is a guy's named Willie Bob from Telegraph Creek. He was a good friend of mine. We grew up together in Port Ed. So when you end your spiritual walk here on our territory, I'm going to speak to you in my language, and I'm a speaker for a hereditary chief named Yahan. His name's Don Wesley. He's from Lacroix Labs too. And whenever I do anything like this, I notify him, I let him know that their brothers and sisters come to our territory and end their ceremony here. I'll tell them what the walk is all about, the loss and grief that you've all gone through in the past year. The ashes you bring here, you honor us by bringing the ashes here and ending the ceremony here. You know that the cycle has been complete, the circle's been complete, and should be put to rest. Watchim gigat. Like I gigat to get a manan, had a couple waxy. Elgum hati wire, Canada, get will yards. The Hollands netty will get it. I go out will jar again. She'll hide the next go. What? This lady standing beside me here, she comes from Camano. She's a survivor of residential school. She was almost 6 years old when she boarded the steamer here when they took her away to Port Alberni. Port Alberni's gone for a long time. You know, and when I got back from school, I never ever forget that. I went down to help my father work on the boat. And I asked a question, very simple question. What he was doing on the engine. He was taking a spark plug off with a wrench. I asked him what he was doing. He looked at me and he just snapped at me. And he couldn't speak English. He said, "Don't, cheeky." What did I say? What is so different that I came back a year later and I talked to my father and he snapped at me like that? I didn't understand. I didn't understand that my voice had changed. I had courage to try to communicate with my father, and that was his answer to me. So I left Edmonton. You know, I didn't realize that I was such an angry man after 2 years. That the changes have to happen. I had to deal with my addiction. That's why I stand here today. And once I dealt with my addiction, I sobered up when I was 53. 2 years later, I'm in school. I went to school in Kitimat. I tell this story because I don't know where my fear went. I always lived in fear. I always walk around looking down. I never look up, never look people in the eye when I'm talking. I thought I was afraid, but here I was shamed into doing that. Because my mother went to Crosby Girls Home run by the United Church. And she told my wife that she was ugly. My mother said she was a very nice looking lady. And my mother was not ugly. My mother could sing. She loved to sing gospel songs. And she was not ugly at all, but she left being ashamed of the color of her skin, ashamed of being an Indian. And I carried that. I carried that for a long, long time. It wasn't until I sobered up and I went to treatment in 1993. But it's not until I met a counselor, a native counselor, that told me when I was crying, very softly said to me, "Murray, there's a way out." Where am I? Why would you say that? Well, the search had to come from me. I had to look at myself. And I looked deep within myself to realize that I matter too. I count. And I'm good enough just the way I am. I don't have to prove anything to anybody. That, you know, the God of my understanding loves me just like he loves everybody else. So once I got to that place, now here I am standing with Melanie that I used to work with. And we've known each other for a number of years now, and we still got that connection. It's so important that you have a spiritual connection, and honored to stand amongst you here. You guys walked long ways. The purposes that you have different reasons, but for one reason, and that's to ease the pain in your heart, to get your heart in the right place again, that you walk in dignity again and not be afraid. You know, tears. Nobody could tell me when to stop grieving. Stop your crying. That's what they used to say when we were kids. Or I'll give you something to cry about. You don't need to do that anymore. Grief is a journey that we're on. It could take a year, it could take 10 years. I used to go to the grave of my parents over in an island called Finlayson. It's about a 2-3 hour drive from here by boat. I went there for 10 years. Every year I'd go and visit them, you know, and I'd talk to my mom, my dad, my brothers. My old Uncle Dan is there, my brothers are there. On the 10th year of visiting, I stood over them and I said, I can't come back anymore. You know, I can't grieve anymore. I gotta let you all go. I have to go and live now. And I apologize if I caused Mom, I apologize if I caused you so much grief. My dad, my brothers. Once I did that and came back here, then I could go inside myself. Then my mind would start to clear up and I know that I am a good person. Then get a phone call. I followed you on Facebook. I knew where you were, and I was just telling Louise, you guys are going to be here at 1 o'clock. I didn't realize the time. And we just left here, and we got scooters, and it's in the back of a truck. We just wanted to come out for a ride. We came here, we sat there for, I don't know, 45 minutes. I don't know how long we were there. Then we went back, got over there, and then you phoned. We were just loading the scooter up there. Thank you for doing that. So on behalf of, they call it the 9 Allied Tribes of Loch Alarms in Metlakatla, BC village is just over there. Welcome you to the territory, tribal territory. I never ever say that I speak for Port Simpson. I never say I speak for my village. I only speak for the hereditary chief named Yaha. I speak for my tribe. I don't speak for my village at all. I always tell people that it's important to know what your crest is, what your name is, the feasting. Feasting is so important. And I walk today, I look around, I'm not afraid anymore. Tell people my name, where I come from. And life is much, much different today. And when I stand here among all these sacred things that you have here, I really feel blessed to be here. I see an abalone shell, or I have one like that. And smudging, I learned that in Round Lake when I was there. It's a wonderful ceremony. And I welcome you all here. And I hope your journey back, wherever you're going to go, is going to be a safe one, a happy one. You feel better once you leave again, that you've completed what you needed to complete. I hope that you continue to do that. As long as I'm around, you can phone me, let me know, or I'll just follow you on Facebook. And I was wondering why Arnie is calling me so early. Hi, Arnie. So welcome here, and God bless the ashes that are there. Bless the journey. That's she's going to be on. Who is it again?
My daughter, Natasha.
Your daughter. God bless her journey too. That's her daughter's ashes there. They're going to take some out and leave some here. And
Do the rest at Butts Rapids with the water cleanse with Chris Nelson.
Chris Nelson.
And Peter Nelson.
Chris and Peter. Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, they always do the water cleanse. It's so cold this time of year, but
it is.
But necessary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good to see you, dude.
Yeah,
Haven't seen you in person for a while.
a long time. Yeah, it's been a long time. Yeah.
Did you have anything that you wanted to add?
Yeah, I want to acknowledge the road that you guys are on. And reflecting on our history and the acknowledgement on Friday, the truth and reconciliation. And the ability to speak without fear. That we're no longer told what to do and what not to do. We have our own free will, but we reclaim in our healing walk. All this they try to do away with our sacred objects, our whole sacred being, and trying to tell us that it's all of the devil, it's all evil spirits, and made us believe that we were of the devil. And thank heavens that we didn't listen, that most of us have reclaimed who the Creator intended us to be. Looking at all the sacred items from Mother Earth, looking at the eagle feathers and what they symbolize. Everything is sacred within your bundle. And the spirit, your spirit walk, is being fulfilled with every step that you take. And coming to a completion in doing part of your work in bringing your daughter's ashes home. And we look at things in symbols. We look at the little children that never made it home. We acknowledge them. Not only the children, there's many of the survivors of residential school who didn't make it home. And those who did succumb to the effects of the residential school. A lot of people who tried to anesthetize their pain through substance that became abusive. And a lot of them didn't make it. We recognize them as well. And the more you do and expose and use the sacred items, the stronger our own spirit becomes. They didn't douse it the way they intended to. We're alive, we're here. I'm grateful that you keep walking every step you take is strengthening the spirit. And all of you in the circle, the spirit we acknowledge, and it's the spirit that we see the beauty of it in each one in the circle. Thank you.
Could you bring your daughter up here?
I'm not sure if you heard Louisa. This is her son Xavier. He's been living with us for 6 years and on the walk, the last 6 years of the walk, he's been praying for his mom's sobriety and healing so that she can come join us on the walk. And so that was why we decided to take her ashes from the start to finish. And she had committed suicide because she had a heavy generational residential abuse issues. But mostly it was the death of her son and her first daughter that she couldn't get over the grief that happened with, I was telling Maria, she was breastfeeding her baby and then her spouse had rolled over and laid on the baby, and so she blamed herself and she just couldn't get, she had 4 more children after that, but addiction took over, depression, anxiety, and we lost her physically while she was here every year, that nothing anyone could do or say could help her, and she just wanted to leave. Louisa here, Cynthia and Charlene was actually our dad's counselor before his fishing accident, and he was getting help before he passed away, before his accident. He was so happy. I really appreciate the help that you gave him. Thank you. This is my sister Charlene and my baby sister Cynthia.
Hello.
Hi.
as difficult as life has been for family, you're the strength within the circle. And the more we know and understand the history of our people, right from the time of colonization through the residential school experience, to the government, to the churches, who all had a hand in trying to do away with who we are as First Nations people. And the more you know, the more you understand, the stronger your spirit is. It becomes stronger. And your voice becomes stronger. And it is without fear that we speak to tell the truth of your family, of your mom, of your ancestors. And we pave the way for them to have a peaceful resting place. The more we acknowledge what happened to the residential school survivors, the more that the spirits of our ancestors will be at peace, knowing that we're speaking on their behalf. It gives me hope. It fills my heart to know that you are here, to know that you have walked alongside people who have been in support of each other, and to know that this is what we are about as First Nations people, to reach out, hold each other up, love each other. You have a lot of strength, developing the strength with each step that you take, and feeding your spirit at the same time. I raise my hand up to you. I pray that the good spirit continues to walk with you throughout your lifetime, and to breathe that strength within you, and keep your eyes and your ears open, so that you could feel everybody, knowing what they need. You reach out your hand. Thank you.
Did you want to add anything?
I just want to acknowledge son that it takes a lot of courage to do what you're doing. You know, that strength and courage comes from somewhere. You know, because I knew none of this growing up too. And that's how I started through my healing journey. You know, the addiction is hit our communities really hard. You know, and I always remember what Dad shared when he first seen that counselor, when he voiced to Dad that there was a way out. You know, I've been to many communities where I worked with a lot of grief and addiction, and trying to bring that awareness to everybody that crossed my path, give them the strength and knowledge to know that there's a way out. And our way out is our culture. That's what's going to get us through. And I'm glad that I'm able to witness this here today. Thank you.
Just for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Arnie Nagy is my English name. I'm a member of the Haida Nations. My Haida name is Talatska Chin Kilju, which means strong salmon voice. I'm of the Saujago clan, and my crest is eagle, and I'm also a descendant of Chief Weir. I grew up not really understanding my culture too. I was never sent to a residential school or a day school and never had to face that type of trauma. But throughout my working career as a union organizer and working in the fish plants, I learned very quickly about the damage that residential schools and day schools have done to our sisters and brothers from other nations, having to defend them in the plant from being fired because of how they were dealing with stressful situations. I did that for 37 years, working with the union. And at one point, the matriarch of our family approached me and told me that I am now speaking on behalf of the family. I have her permission to speak on issues, but to understand that it's not for monetary gain or political gain. And even if she left this earth and I use it for that right for me to speak on behalf of my family is automatically removed. I've been doing that since. My job now, after 37 years in the fishing industry and working at the hospital, I'm an Aboriginal advocate here in Prince Rupert. And since I started there, I've been dealing with a lot of First Nations issues. I do status cards now for nations because their bands won't issue them out. But predominantly what I have been doing is helping clients to get through the day school process at claims applications. And what I have heard helping many of my clients do their written narratives, hearing the stories about what happened to them as children, really hit home in a way that I never thought that it would. Because I've always been a tough guy. Nothing really ever gets to me. And when I went to Salmon Fest and I heard our Niska sisters and brothers do the Mother's Cry about children being taken away to residential school, that's when I realized that hit hard. I actually had to leave because I have never been overpowered with such feelings in my life. And that's when I knew that until the day I die, I will not stop speaking about the injustices suffered at day school, the political nonsense that we hear from politicians. They talk truth and reconciliation, but we see at the Unistoten, truth and reconciliation is at the end of a gun barrel with RCMP officers violating unceded territories. We see it going on in many other places in the name of multinational corporations, profit margin, superseding our constitutional rights as First Nations. And I think the one thing that I've really picked up is that we can't be afraid to stand up and speak. I went through some legal workshops as part of my job. They got up there and they preached under it, land claims, truth and reconciliation. And I just about fell out of my seat. And when they asked if there were any questions, I knew as a spokesperson for my family, I had to get up. But I also had to speak up on behalf of the clients and the people and friends and family from other nations that I heard. And for 15 minutes, I explained to them what a shaman was and why are you pushing land claims. Land claims is a termination process. It's no different than what they were trying to do to us through assimilation. You want to negotiate, you negotiate title. Then we have a say on our traditional unceded territories. We have nothing to negotiate. We own the land. UNDRIP is a piece of paper that is worthless unless you breathe life into it by following the recommendations. Truth and reconciliation is not done at the end of a gun barrel. Truth and reconciliation begins with the understanding that the hereditary systems are what held our peoples and our nations together for thousands of years, since time immemorial. Not the DIA set up system of band councils and elected chiefs that are negotiating illegally with companies and government on land claims issues. We've got a long way to go. We've got a lot of politicians that like to throw out those politically correct words. And we see it from many people that work with us, that try to help us. They identify themselves as settlers. And when I spoke about this issue at what they call power shift, I laid it on the table. I will not allow you to come into any type of feast hall or something that I am working or organizing with others and have you come in here and identify as a settler. That is a racial term, and if you're going to be with us, I will call you a brother, I'll call you a sister, I'll call you an ally. But I'm not going to allow you to join us feeling that you have to self-identify yourself as somebody completely different and not as a white person. No, we stand together, we fight together, we benefit together. And we see that still happening to this day, where that racial divide is the best weapon that governments and right-wing organizations can use to divide us. You know, it's interesting because people know that I don't put up with the nonsense. I speak my mind. And they were quite shocked at many a time when I got up and spoke on behalf of our peoples, because they've got all of this college history, they've got all of these books that they've read about history, and they think they know the answers. Well, I've got 10,000 years of history and the stories that were passed down. I don't need your books that were printed by somebody that wasn't First Nations describing our culture. We know our culture. We know our stories. Our stories are what keep us going. And as I was telling Melanie, your daughter may be in the spirit world now with her ancestors. But when you speak of them in our cultural ways, they are with us. We give them back life because now they become part of our oral tradition. What they may have taught us in that short period is what allows us, when we tell those stories to the young people, that allows them to start developing into our cultural ways. You know, I know it's very difficult, and it's been pretty difficult times for my family. 2 weeks ago we lost my aunt. That same night I had the house fire, which is why I couldn't house you guys on this trip. The house is all boarded up, well, pretty much boarded up. And then lost a cat that night, and now Friday was an accident, and my stepson is in VGH on life support, and as tough as it gets, I mean, the one thing that we have to remember, I mean, yeah, I'm under a lot of stress, but I can't curl up in a ball and start feeling sorry for myself. You have to prepare for what's coming. And I have to do what I have to do to help my daughter get through this. My family get through the death of their aunt, or my aunt. To deal with getting my house back so that I can start doing my usual feasts and stuff that I like to do at my house. People who know me know I've got 4 deep freezes and another one at my other friend's place that is full of smoked fish, gullikins, sea lions, seal meat, herring eggs, all of my traditional foods that I live on every year that we enjoy as a feast to bring people together. And I think even if it's done in that small way, it starts building that understanding, right? And people from different nations come to my house, and we listen to what they talk about, their stories. And by sharing the stories, we build that solidarity. I mean, we survived the oppression through the strength of our ancestors. And now that torch is what we carry. And it's only through our strength in standing up and saying no, and not being afraid to speak, not being afraid to share our cultural ways, and challenge those that say, get over it. We got nothing to get over. We got everything to deal with. It's not just a get over thing and walk away because the government decides to give you a few $1,000s for compensation. No. We'll get over it when things are done correctly and we are recognized as human beings and have a right to exist as First Nations people in this country. When I go to some meetings, people say, well, you don't look Indian. I says, well, I'm Indian with a little cream, just like coffee.
That's cute.
And then when I use on them, I says, remember Custer in his last dance? Yeah? Well, there was a few of us that were camouflaged that were able to find out what he was going to do so he could get a proper welcome. I says, and unfortunately many of our own people play that card against others too, right? Our office, on average, well, as I said, doing the day school, I've done over 600 day school claims. We've submitted over $10 million worth of claims. And when I talked to the claim administrator, they couldn't believe how many we had done. Out of all of the claims in Canada, we've done 0.5%. 0.5% doesn't seem like much, but it's an awful huge number when you figure that's one small little outfit. And the reason? Because people know that we respect First Nations values, we understand the cultures as best we can, and if not, we find out ways. But overall, it's the respect. The respect for what they went through. The respect for what they're dealing with. The respect to stand up and speak on their behalf and to carry their message further. I was gifted with talk and a strong voice, which is why they gave me that Haida name. And my obligations as a descendant of Chief Wea is to carry that on and to protect nations, not just the Haida people, but all people. And until the rest of Canada starts to understand the injustices and we stand up to fight for them and make sure that that fight is carried by those behind us when we make our walk into the forest to begin our final journey, that fight is carried on. If we roll up in a ball and start feeling sorry for ourselves, then we lose. There's nothing wrong with grief, and I know a lot of our clients are dealing with addictions, but we try to help them the best way we can, because in the end, they have to make the decision. I can't force somebody to do something with them. And it's easy to write somebody off, oh, he's just another drunk, he's just another this. Well, that doesn't happen. Because people care. It happens, or don't care, it happens because they are ignorant of what the situation really is. And I think we can turn things around, but it's gonna be a long, hard fight, and it's a fight that we can't give up. Sorry for the long-windedness, but.
That's your name. Thank you. So yeah, we're supposed to introduce ourselves traditionally. I hold the name Kamaham, I was just given that a few months ago. I'm from the House of East, Lucky Boo. Kamaham is my name that I hold. Frisco. Just introduce yourself.
Thanks, Frisco. Trinity House in East. Still have my child named Doodlebach. Live in Prince George. Thank you.
Tell her what you said on your video about how your reason for walking this year with catching up.
Oh yeah. I figure it's my turn to grow up now because my sisters have been protecting me all these years from myself. From suicide and just addiction. But I want to take my place as an elder now. I just think it's time to grow up finally. I'm 53 years old, and each year I come on this walk, I quit drinking a little longer. I just pray for guidance. Thank you.
I meant she said she's always told she looks older than me and Babs, and so she wants to catch up to her face. That's what she said.
My name's Xavier McCarthy.
What's your Indian name?
I hold the name Lilet Woloust. My great grandfather niece gave it to me like 2 months ago, and I hold that loud and proud. And I guess this year, what I'm just like walking for is to pray for my mom to travel to the spirit world safely, and I don't know, this trip has been kind of ups and downs, so thanks.
My name is Mark Smoke. I'm Melanie Smoke's husband. Haudenosaunee Goyokono of the English, it's a French word, Iroquois. But that's not, Iroquois comes from a French word between snake. But everyone uses those terms, right, that were made up for us many years ago. And they still don't lose those terms. They put them on paper and still call us those names, even though it's racist and derogatory terms. Same with the word Indian. It never existed in this land. Some of these names that they've given us still on paper today, we should get rid of all, just sweep it all clean and then put all of our own stuff down. And then that could go in the history books as the way it should be. Stop teaching the young kids the way that I grew up thinking I was Iroquois, thinking I was Indian, not realizing when I grew up that I'm not even close to anything that people think that we are. I was always taught to not leave not pick up your own garbage type thing. Take your stuff, don't leave it. And that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life anyways, try to take my stuff and not leave it. Thank you.
My name's Ian Gregory. I'm from the Fireweed clan, House of Randa Up. My native name's Skogos. stands in the way. I'm here to support my spouse Cynthia in this journey and to help myself. Thank you.
I'm Cindy. I'm Lewis Swine, right? We're House in the East. I'm here to support the family. Be here for my niece, Xavier, my sisters, my nephew, Sharon.
My name is Shanna Smoke. I hold the name Gasiguin. I'm of the House Niece of the clan Makibu, and I walk this walk to really support everybody in their journey every year. And every year I kind of learn how to be more cultural and try to forget the ways we were taught in school about residential school and whatnot, because I know it's not the full story. So I'm also a wing chief.
Tell Murray and Louise and Arnie and Tom what you said when the teacher asked you what Métis was.
My mom told me Métis people were people who were raped and pillaged by the French, so that's what I said in my Law 12 class last year, and my whole class is white people, so they were pretty appalled at what I said. But the teacher did say it was most likely accurate.
The truth hurts.
Yeah, we got a lot of horrified faces that day.
My Christian name is Kevin Stewart. Given name is Gaska from the house Subsan Nishka Nation. I'm just very honored to. We were just walking our dog and came across this. I'm just very honored to witness this. Yeah.
If you happen to know the meaning of my name, our chief niece said that it was gifted to us by the Shimshan people.
Taltan.
Taltan? Oh.
Yeah.
That was Taltan.
Gasiguin is actually, it's Taltan, and what happened was when the chiefs before my grandmother were named, Gasiguin came from the Taltan Nation, and niece invited him to sit with him because at the time the table wasn't big enough, and so invited him to be one of the room chiefs and sit and support him and stuff, and so the Gasiguin means right now, and it is also a name of the territory. In the Taltan territory. I held the name Gasiguin for years, and then when they switched my name, I didn't want to hold my name because somebody else held it, and but my uncle gave it to me and then gave my name to Shannon and said, you have no choice but to hold this thing up. But I didn't want it because I didn't want the conflict that was going to go with it, but I accepted it.
Well, you're all building your names that you just received and making them very strong, so when they're passed on, that's a big obligation for the person who will receive your name to carry it and make it even stronger. And you're doing a great job of what you're doing. I think you should be very, very proud of what you're doing and raising awareness.
So we're just gonna sing the Women's Warrior song. We started every day with it because Mother Earth is she's the greatest mother of all mothers, the ones that supplies us with water, food, nourishment, everything relies, every living thing relies on the earth to be healthy. And I was taught by our grandmother and our mother and uncles that when you get your chief name, that your job is to be a steward of the land, and you're only as healthy as your territories and your waters and
said, we walk from the Unistilton where the reservoir is, and it makes sense that you always host us with your name now, because we're speaking for the salmon.